Two co-workers board a plane divided by power and resentment, but when it crashes into the ocean, the island becomes a courtroom, a battlefield and a mirror, and only one of them is truly built to survive. I don't need your permission anymore, Bradley. Out here, I decide who survives. When I first saw the trailer for Send Help, I'll admit I expected a routine early year horror release. A plane crash, a deserted island, and two people who can't stand each other. We've seen it all before, I thought. Then I saw the name, Sam Raimi, and suddenly this became one of my most anticipated films of the year. You see, from the opening moments when the corporate jet violently gets torn from the sky, Send Help grabs you by the throat. But the crash is not the real hook. What really gets under your skin is what happens afterwards. The shift in power dynamic between two people who despise each other, but they're forced into survival on this remote island. Now, Raimi, returning to horror for the first time since Drag Me to Hell in 2009, proves he hasn't lost a single ounce of his bite. His direction is tight, it's stylish, and it's deliberately uncomfortable. He knows when to let a moment simmer and when to detonate it with grotesque, darkly hilarious chaos, and there are some great comedy moments in this film. There's close-ups that make you squirm, POV shots that feel like callbacks to the Evil Dead, and then there's bursts of violence that are genuinely nasty and disgusting in the best possible way. Now, I laughed and I cringed, and there were moments when I physically looked away, but I loved it. At the centre of it all are two wildly committed performances. You've got Rachel McAdams is phenomenal as Linda Little, an overlooked socially awkward strategist who's been stepped on for years. Her character in the film is unpredictable and electric. It's just not a safe performance. It's messy, it's bold, and it's completely absorbing. Out here, it's not about who's louder or richer, it's about who lasts. Opposite her is Dylan O'Brien, who delivers one of his most abrasive roles to date. Bradley Preston is entitled, smug, misogynistic and often infuriating. And O'Brien leans all the way in. There's no attempt to soften him. Watching him unravel as the island strips away his privilege is both satisfying and darkly hilarious. The setup is simple but effective. Linda has been long mistreated in her sterile corporate office. She's passed over yet again when the founder's son Bradley is handed the CEO position. She then reluctantly joins him on a business flight to Bangkok. With a storm, a lightning strike and the ocean, and suddenly the office politics don't matter anymore, only survival does. Now, on the island, the dynamic flips beautifully. Linda is a devoted fan of the TV show Survivor. She actually knows how to build shelter, collect water and make fire. And with the contrast being Bradley can barely spell the word help in the sand. And Raimi, being such a great director, minds this reversal for both tension and outrageous comedy. Watching Bradley attempt dominance only to lose it piece by piece is endlessly entertaining. Now, what I appreciated most is how the film evolves. It begins as a survival thriller, then morphs into psychological warfare. Food and water become secondary to control, manipulation and pride. Now, the screenplay takes its time building to Linda's turning point, perhaps a little too long, but once it snaps, the second half becomes relentless, chaotic and darkly triumphant. Now, Raimi balances class commentary, gender politics and pure pulp entertainment without ever feeling preachy. He lets the characters expose themselves naturally. When the violence does hit, it hits hard, but it's laced with pitch black humour. Did you know that the real-life Australian survival expert Kylie Furno was consulted for the making of this film, building the island shelter and teaching the cast how to realistically make fire and collect drinking water, and it does show. The film is also dedicated to Scott Spiegel, who's a long-time collaborator of Raimi and a friend of Bruce Campbell, adding a subtle emotional weight behind the chaos. Now look, is the film perfect? It's not. The build-up stretches slightly before its explosive payoff, and the story itself is structurally simple, but execution is everything, and here it just bloody works. Listen, the film's got it all: comedy, thrills, horror, intrigue, adventure, and constantly shifting dynamics that keep you completely locked in. It's uncomfortable, fun, vicious and strangely empowering, and it's better than it has any right to be. And I would say it's one of the most memorable theatrical experiences I've had this year. We're only in February. See, this one isn't just a survival story about escaping an island. It's about escaping the versions of ourselves that we hide behind. Titles, power and pride. Raimi doesn't just strand his characters, he strips them bare. So my final Smiles and Cries verdict: I smiled at the outrageous dark comedy. I winced at the brutality, and I couldn't look away from the psychological warfare. I give Send Help 7.5 out of 10. Go and watch it. You will be enthralled.